Hello everyone, welcome back to Unveiled Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your tarot reader this evening. Happy Friday. I'm coming to you live on Friday, October 24th, 2025, and we're going to be doing live tarot readings on the channel this evening. If you guys are live in the chat, give me a thumbs up, like this video, make sure you're subscribed, click that bell button below so you can see more of my videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays. And we're going to be doing live readings for you guys on the channel. So if this is the first time that you guys are here, welcome. We alternate between every other Friday between tarot and astrology. If you want to get a reading, scan the QR code right up there. It'll take you to my PayPal. There you guys can put a donation and information in the memo box for your specific question. I'm doing one card tarot readings, and that'll be a $20 donation. And we're doing a 3-card tarot reading spread for $40. You guys can mix and match. If you want to ask multiple questions, you can send different variations of that amount. Just specify your particular questions in the memo box, and thanks for your guys' patience. We will be taking the readings in the order that we receive them. Also, if you guys happen to be a level 4 member, thanks for being a member. We will be having one more week, actually. Next week on the 30th, we're going to be doing live astrology. So you have tonight and you guys have next Thursday to get in your memberships if you want to cash in. I know Sharon Grant is already here, and we've got a lot of other people who are already in the chat as well as in the queue. So what's up, Prue? I see you. Sharon Grant's here. What's up, Stacy? Hey, Amanda. Janie Doe. How's it going, guys? Happy Friday. I will be reading out the list before we get started, and I'm going to let you guys know who I have in the queue. As we're going through the readings, if you hear me call out your name, that means that your reading is coming up. For whatever reason, if it takes a little bit longer to get your readings, you can always come back to this. We leave all the live tarot and astrology readings up on the channel, so you can come back at a later date, listen to your reading, or give me some feedback and leave me a comment and let me know what happens with your reading. So for the queue, I have level 4. We're going to take Sharon, but we've got Aaron. Amanda's got a couple questions. Vanessa's got a couple questions. Prue sent a super chat. We've also got Brianna and Stacy. So if there's anybody else that pops in along the way, I'll update that list and let you guys know when we've got more questions that are coming in. And I'll also let you guys know when we're going to be doing last call for the tarot this evening. It depends on how many people that we have. So excited to get into it. And tonight I'm very excited because this is the first time that I'm getting to actually read with my very own tarot deck that I created. So I've been working on a tarot deck the last couple of months. I'm going to be showing it to you guys. Maybe you caught it on some of the horoscopes, but it's going to be coming out in November. It's called the Sword and the Rose Tarot. I designed this. It comes with like a cool little PDF tarot booklet that explains all the cards. It gives you some spreads and information on how to store and work with your tarot. So I hope you guys like that. If you guys want to be one of the people who gets one of my first edition drops of this deck that is first printed, make sure you head over to my website. The link's in the description. Go to beyondtheveiltarot.com. While you're there, sign up for my newsletter. There's a little box that's going to pop up and it's going to prompt you. I won't spam you. You're only going to get an email next month if we have Black Friday deals. Like I'll put my tarot and my astrology courses on sale. Sometimes I do specials for people who want to buy a number of my readings, or if you want to get any of the products that we put on sale. And I think I'm only going to do 100 of these decks for the first print. So if you guys want to get the first edition of my deck, make sure you sign up. I'm aiming for an early November kind of launch date for obviously before the Mercury retrograde, but we'll see how that goes. But definitely going to have them out before Christmas. So I hope you guys like the deck. And we're going to get started with the first couple of people. We have Sharon, and then I'll take Aaron and Amanda. All right, so let's take a look and see what Sharon has to say. What's up, Sharon? She's a level 4 member. She says, what do the cards say about an interview on 10/27, support from connection at work? Is the person from a past life? Okay, so wait a second. What do the cards say about interview 10/27, support connection at work? Are you asking about like a connection you have with the person? I don't really fully understand your question. Are you still in the chat? What do the cards say about interview 1097 support from connection at work? Are you asking if there's a romantic connection, or you're asking about like an actual, an interview that you had with somebody revolving around support? Can you give me a little bit of clarification on that? And if I don't hear from, Sharon, I'll go to Erin and give her a second to kind of bounce back and respond to me. Just a little bit of clarification would be like really helpful. I also noticed you gave me a memo. Maybe there's something different in there. Oh no, never mind. I guess not. All right, well okay. I guess it's 2 questions. Well, do you want me to do 2 separate cards? I can do 2 separate cards for your reading if you want. Okay, so you did an interview for an HR position. So if you're cool with that, I'll pull 1 on what you need to know about the interview and 1 about the person that you have a connection with at work. Do level 1 memberships get a free monthly reading, or is that a different tier? No, the only ones that get the monthly reading is level 4, and you can choose if you want a tarot or an astrology reading if you join level 4 membership. All right, Sharon, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask the deck, what do we need to know about the interview that or I guess, let's see, what is the date that you gave me? So the interview is on 10/27, so you've got it in a couple days. So let's ask about first the interview. What does Sharon need to know about that? Can you give us any guidance regarding this HR position interview? Pretty good card. Card that you get is the 6 of Wands, which is going to deal with, well, success, being called back, recognition, somebody who's going to be giving you like a glowing review, or somebody who's going to be really receptive of you kind of like joining a team. When this card comes up, it's about kind of feeling like you're being welcomed. So I don't know if you know people who are associated with this department, if you're getting a recommendation for this department, if this is like a second go around and you're returning back and you're doing another interview. But 6 of Wands does talk about success and victory in a situation. So I do feel really good about the interview, and I also feel like you could probably see some pretty rapid movement right after the interview regarding whether or not you're going to take the position. I also feel like this is about you going in there and being very confident and being like very, forthcoming about your skills and like what you're hoping to achieve and like what you're looking for. And putting it out there in a way that's like, I'm looking for a position that's going to be best for me, where I'm a good fit and I feel like I can like do my best work. So it's less about them interviewing you for the position. It's more about you going, I'm on a search trying to find where I'm going to, find my best fit. And I'm going to keep looking until I find it. And I hope that this is a fit, but like, I'm not really willing to settle because I feel like I have so much more that I can give than what I'm kind of doing in my current position. So excellent in terms of like an interview card. So let's ask the deck what you need to know about this other person at work. It says, is there a past life connection with this person? Is the person from a past life? Okay. And I'm wondering if you're asking like in a romantic way, like what it is that you're hoping to get more insight in terms to that. Is a person from a past life? So are you asking about somebody at work, or are you just asking about a romantic connection in general? The more specific you guys are with your questions, the easier it's going to be for me to give you an answer. That way I'm not throwing darts in the dark here. But let's take a look. So Sharon's got a question about a person, wondering if there is a connection from a past life. So what can you tell us about that? All right. Of course you would pull this. The card that you get is the Lover's card. Obviously, the Lover's card talks about options, temptation, choices. And this is an interesting card when people are like, are we a match? Are we twin flames? Is there something there? Like, what's the connection? Why is it that it feels like so intense, or that there is such a strong draw to this other person? The Lover's card is not necessarily like a friendly card. It's more that there is some kind of like sexual tension or romantic connection, or that there is this feeling of like wanting to be closer to this person, or like being so drawn to them, but also at the same time being like, oh, do I want to go down that path again, right? This is a card that's also like is strongly connected with Gemini, so it can be talking about like feeling like this person is almost like a mirror for you, or that there are so many things that you have in common or so many similarities, and the more that you're communicating and talking to them, you're like, there's got to be some kind of catch, or there is something that's kind of brought us together. But it does talk about not just the connection, but also like needing to make a conscious decision as to whether or not you're going to go down that road. If you're going to be tempted into, you know, a lusty situation, a commitment, if there's going to be some complication because of other people who may potentially be in the mix. It's also a card that talks about once you kind of go in that direction and you make that connection, whether it's emotionally or physically, then it's going to be hard to kind of break out of, right? Because there is this sense of finally like coming together with someone who feels like your other half. But it almost feels like when this card comes up, you're kind of teeter-tottering and you're going back and forth as to whether or not you want to kind of even test the waters there, because there could be so much depth and there could be so much intensity or themes that can be like remembering each other from the past. Yeah, definitely the Lover's card would be one of my kind of past life cards. But it does complicate things in this lifetime if you feel like there are things that get in the way that can hinder you from being able to truly be together. So hopefully that's helpful in giving you some insight with that. Definitely let me know what happens with your interview, because the Six of Wands is a great card to get. All right, so we're going to be moving on to who we have next in the queue. Aaron, Amanda, and Vanessa. What's up? David's in the chat. All right. And if you guys want to get a reading, scan the QR code. We'll get you in the queue. Let's see what Aaron has to say. What's up, Aaron? Aaron says, I would like extended clarity on my reading from last Friday. I am a Libra rising, Cap Sun, Aries moon. My ex is a Scorpio. I'm looking for timeline. If action comes from me or from him, outcome from us. I'm seeing 222 a lot in the car, and dreams about us moving or long travel to see each other and talk. All right, well, let's take a look and let's see. What can we give Aaron in terms of insight, being a Libra rising, Cap Sun, on what's going on with this ex, the Scorpio? Is there action coming from her or from him? And what is the outcome? So tell us, Tarot, what does it look like for these two? Ooh, I see some majors in here. All right, we've got the Tower card, we've got the Page of Wands, and we have got the Wheel of Fortune. Obviously, two majors is like, there's a bunch of things that are kind of shaking up and changing up. So I think about how, you know, your ex is a Scorpio. Obviously, you don't know like the rising sign, but the astrology for Scorpios next month is gonna be really interesting. We've got Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, so they're reevaluating, reassessing. It's going to oppose Uranus in their 7th house, so there's a back and forth with a partner. It's going to come into conjunction with Venus, which can indicate in November there is an opportunity for like a realignment or a reconnection that's going to happen with a romantic partner. But the Tower card coming up with the Page of Wands is kind of saying, like, everything that you guys have done thus far, or what your plan has kind of been, or like the tendency you guys have had in relationships, it's all being like leveled. Like everything has to be leveled and it has to be reset. For that card to be coming up, it can also be saying that there has been so much that's happened in the past that you guys can't just pick up and move forward from where you left off. Like there have been some things that have happened or some stuff that has been said that it is good that it has been uprooted, but it's going to be challenging because you guys are going to have to really decide whether or not A, you're a fit for each other, and B, I think the Page of Wands is saying that this is about somebody traveling, or this is going to be about somebody, you know, kind of like being a little bit more independent or taking their time. Obviously, neither one of you guys is a fire sign, so a Page of Wands is not really going to apply to either one of you guys in terms of who's going to be the one that's going to make the move. It's saying both of you guys are on your own separate journey, you're on your own separate path. Page of Wands can say that somebody feels a little bit more willing to take a risk, or that they're going to be feeling a little bit more driven or anxious or likely to say, hey, you know what?
I'm gonna try to connect, but the timing seems off. When a page is coming up with the Tower card, it's saying like, if you try to rush back into this right now, it's not necessarily gonna be stable. I think with like Venus in opposition to Uranus, Mercury in opposition to Uranus, a full moon that's coming, you know, in Taurus, like there's a lot of things in the Scorpio chart that is kind of indicating not necessarily yet. Now it can mean that both of you guys are on your own like little, you know, paths to kind of figuring out who you are and what you want, and you're working on yourselves, and you're kind of being a little bit more selfish right now in a good way, and focusing on your kind of goals when it comes to relationships, and that actually, it can lead you back together. You know, the Wheel of Fortune comes up timing-wise. You know, the Wheel of Fortune is going to talk very explicitly about Sagittarius season. So that's going to be like the end of November into about mid-December. Also, I think of just like the astrology of like the timing, and that as a Libra rising, you know, February of next year, you're going to have like Saturn and Neptune meeting in your 7th house. So that would be a definitive timeline. But I think that the Tower card coming up with the Page of Wands is like saying you guys can't go back to the same way that you used to do things. There has to be a complete reset. You have to be willing to kind of figure out what you both want independently and kind of reshape who you are before deciding whether or not you can come together. Now, you mentioned, you know, dreams and kind of moving and traveling and all of that stuff. I mean, that can very much connect to the Page of Wands. It could be saying that there is opportunity for you guys to start reconnecting, you know, in Sagittarius season, and possibly discussing whether or not that's something you guys can do in the future. But I think the long and short of it is you're going to have to look at more than just what's going on with your astrology or even the cards. I'd be more focused on watching Mars transits. You know, if you're a Libra rising, recently Mars has been in conjunction with Mercury. So you have been having dreams about relationships and whether or not you hold on to them or let them go. Mars will come into conjunction with Mercury retrograde. So that is a transit you're going to want to watch. That's going to be happening in November. That's going to be whether or not you're letting go of the idea of the relationship, or if you're going to detach and go like, you know what, it's okay, I can let this go. Maybe if there is a potential in the future for us to come together, great, so be it. However, right now, neither one of you guys are ready. So the Wheel of Fortune is positive in a sense of saying, yeah, when the time is right, you will see success, but it's going to take time. I would be assuming sometime between December and May. That's kind of the window that's kind of coming up with some of these cards. And know that the real big thing right now is about giving each other the freedom and the space to not feel like you have to be aligning your life or putting things in motion to make it possible for you guys to come back together, right? Does that make sense? Twos can definitely be about relationship and union, but I also feel like twos can kind of similarly be like fours, where it's about kind of finding that stability and getting solid and secure before you decide that you're going to go out and make some kind of change. So I would not push the reconnection too soon. And obviously a Page of Wands is going to be a male. So I think if there's going to be anybody who's going to make a move, it's likely going to be him. It's not you. Be wary of timing and one of the two of you guys trying to connect too soon, because I think you need a little bit of time to kind of explore who you are, see how you guys can potentially build together in the new year. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Let me know what happens, Aaron. It's going to be an interesting retrograde for that Scorpio. All right, we have Amanda, and I think, was it Amanda that had 2 cards? There was somebody that had 2. Hold on. Yeah, Amanda has 2 questions. Okay, so what's up, Amanda? Hey, Dorothy. Thank you, I appreciate it. Amanda says, can we please pull cards on a recent breakup? I'm a 29-degree Virgo rising, Cap Sun. He's the Sag rising, Cancer Sun. I thought things were going well in our 3.5-year on-again, off-again relationship until once again he blindsided me. Why does he keep doing this? Was it me Friday PM and someone else Saturday PM? What? Wait, hold on a second. Why does he keep doing this? He was with me Friday and someone else Saturday. Okay, got it. Woof. That's crazy. So like as a Sag rising, he's got Jupiter on his sun in the 8th house. So there is like a sense of him being like, oh, I want some freedom, you know, and going through a lot of emotional change, not making excuses. I would also say a lot of this could be Uranus going into Gemini in the 7th for them, even if it's not exact, if it's whole sign. And you got to be really careful with Saturn and Neptune on your descendant, because it's about people kind of being in and out, and like 1 minute they're there, 1 minute they're vanishing. And it's kind of like playing games, at least now until the new year, with Saturn and Neptune. The Mercury retrograde is going to be crazy for Sag risings too, because that obviously rules their 7th house and it's going to go retrograde in their 1st. So if they're like talking to two people or going back and forth in relationships or not communicating well, that's going to come up. So let's ask the tarot for Amanda, like what's going on with this relationship, this Sag rising that they're back and forth with. Once again, has been blindsided. What do we need to know? And sounds like it was with another person and then was with her one night, another person, another. Yes, he left me that morning and found again that he took another girl to a wedding. I mean, be careful with Saturn and Neptune in your 7th house. Like even relationships that you've been in for some time, like people will surprise you. That 29 degrees deals with like drama. So we got 10 of Wands, the Hierophant, and the Ace of Pentacles. And it's interesting because the Hierophant can talk about like weddings. Not necessarily it's talking about or foreshadowing you guys getting married, but just weddings in general. And it can be talking about like that you took it personally because you're going, what the heck? Like that's a formal occasion. That's a formal thing. Like you took another person. Why wouldn't you take me? Like what the hell? And so I look at this with the 10 of Wands, you know, things have not been easy. Like if you guys have been back and forth for several years, the 10 of Wands is saying it's getting to a point where it's like, how long are we going to keep doing this for? Like how long are we going to continue to keep carrying this? Or am I going to have to feel like I have to carry the burden of the relationship? And it's getting to a point where one party or the other is feeling like the other person's not carrying their weight. And it can mean that you're getting to the end of a cycle. So even though you've been through a lot, you might look at the relationship and go, well, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to just kind of scrap the relationship because of how much time I've put into it or how far we have come. And you could be looking at staying in the relationships potentially for the wrong reasons. So the Hierophant comes up in the center card, which is a card that talks about long-term planning, what it means to be like a stand-up person in a relationship. It's about long-term commitment. This can be a card of marriage. This can also be a card that talks about like tradition. So you're looking at this going like, okay, you know, maybe in your mind you had hopes that one day we would get to a point where, you know, we can move in together or we can get married or we can have, you know, plans that are long-term. And really the Hierophant can also be talking about getting advice or getting feedback from like an elder or somebody who's wise. So whether you're getting a tarot reading, you're talking to a grandmother figure or an older sister, a friend, a therapist even. This is like about getting advice and really taking what other people are saying to heart in a good way. Now the Ace of Pentacles is an interesting card because the Hierophant and the Ace of Pentacles may say, hey, things are difficult right now, but it does look like things are going to improve and that in the long term, there is still a lot of rootedness that keeps the two of you guys together, whether it's time, whether it's emotions, physical entanglements, whatever it is. Obviously, the Ace of Coins can be physical things, but it looks to me like within a month, you're going to have more solid clarity on where you're going. But I also feel like some of the actions that are coming up are making you question whether or not you want to continue to stay in this dynamic where you're investing yourself and you're continuing to put, you know, effort into this relationship if it's not going to lead to a long-term kind of commitment or turnout. You are not really going to know some of these things until you get to closer to January. And even then, you know, next spring, you're going to have a Mercury retrograde in your 7th house. So there's going to be a reassessment of relationships kind of like in March of next year. Knowing that, you know, you have Jupiter in opposition to your sun, that can be having like a relationship at a distance right now. And that Sag rising is going to be interesting because you're going to see Uranus going in and out. You know, I would just say for the immediate next month, you have to approach the relationship dynamic in a sense of being really mature, very direct about what your intentions are, what you're hoping to get out of a relationship, and also like really ask yourself if you see this actually giving you the things that you want. Because the 10 of Wands knows that if it's going to be too much of an uphill battle, then you have to kind of like pick up your stuff and go, and you have to stay committed and like really reform and become a little bit more cautious and conservative about who you're dating, how you're dating, who you're connecting with, if you want that long-term goal. She said, yes, he told me that morning that he wanted to marry me, etc. And then he blocked me and I found out he was with another woman and he spent the night with her. I'm over it. I can't trust him and he lied to me. So, I mean, that's the other thing is the Ace of Coins coming up with the Hierophant, you going, I've been holding on to this because he said he wants to marry me, Hierophant. He wants to commit to me, Ace of Coins, and he loves me, right? And like, honestly, you know, if somebody tells you those things, then, you know, you would hope that they wouldn't say that unless they meant it. But I feel like if you continue to keep him in your life in any way, shape, or form, he's still going to come back and say these things because the cards are kind of mirroring, like he's going to say to you, oh, there's a potential. But I feel like actions speak louder than words. Ace of Pentacles is we want to see what physical changes he's making. Give it a month. I think honestly, as a Sag rising, he's going to be a hot ass mess with the Mercury retrograde. The only challenge is going to be about you not reaching back out to him because the retrogrades are going to go in opposition to Uranus. So it's going to bring up some kind of tension. And within a month's time, likely you're going to know. And maybe this is like the last leg of like the uphill battle that you're kind of going through with this relationship before you decide whether or not he's got what it takes to be a long-term committed relationship. Because the cards seem to think you're going to come out of this, whether you're with him and it's a shock and surprise and you cut him off and then he comes back, or this is enough for you to look at this and go, this is not my person. This is not what I want. What I actually want is something that's going to be like more long-term. Hold on, I'm looking at your other question. And she says, can you pull some cards and let me know if you see a romantic partner headed my way? If so, any timing in particular, I need to know. Lord knows I need some good news. In theory, this is already mirroring that there is something coming. But let me see if there's anything that comes up about why this is happening and if there's anybody else that's going to be kind of coming into your life. I think the Hierophant coming up with the Ace of Coins is saying, like, in a way, it sounds terrible, but it's almost like he's saying certain things to you because he wants you to know that maybe that's how he feels, but he doesn't necessarily feel ready. Like the Ten of Wands is like, I can't do this right now. It's too much pressure right now, but I do care about her. I do see myself committing to her. I can't do it now. I can do it down the line. So I'm going to give her something that's going to be kind of like baiting her. So that way I feel like she's going to wait for me. Like that's how I see it. I don't think he's just like love bombing you. I think he really does care about you, but also like somebody can't tell you they love you and they want to marry you and then take somebody else to a wedding and like block you. Like those things don't correlate. So can we get any insight on why this is happening and if somebody new is coming in for Amanda? God, that's a bummer. I'd be pissed. I'd crash that wedding real quick. All right, so let's take a look on what the cards have to say. So it was in this order. So we've got the Nine of Cups, we've got the Seven of Swords, we've got the Five of Cups. Girl, if you continue to stick around and hold on to him in hopes that sooner or later he's going to figure it out and you're going to get what you want, it's not going to pan out well. Because the Nine of Cups is like, yes, give me what I want. I'm so focused on getting, my way. And you may have him, but this is going to be a classic example of you have him, but do you really have him, right? He's committing to you, but he's not showing up in a way that he should. So this calls for like a reevaluation because the Seven of Swords is saying that right now you can't really trust the things that he says. And the Nine of Cups could be saying, well, I want this with you. I want that with you. And the Seven of Swords is saying like, he's full of shit. There is something that he's not telling you, or he's only telling you the bare minimum because he doesn't want to tell you the other piece of this, which is that he's scared or he's not ready or he feels like he needs to like still, sow his oats. And the Five of Cups is saying if you don't seek what you want now, if you don't go and actually make a conscious decision to go, I'm going to put myself out there and see if there's somebody who's going to be a better vibrational match, you're going to go round and round with this guy. And the Five of Cups is going to be you being stuck in a situation where you're like crying over the fact that you stayed so long or you waited for him or you believed him. No, we don't wait for him. Keep going, especially knowing that, you've got that 29 degrees. I would not waste any time. I would also look into the fact that, Jupiter rules your 7th house, right? And it's sitting technically in your whole sign 11th. The 11th house isn't just your friends and your social kind of connections. It's also the lovers of other people. So Jupiter going into the 5th house, trining Saturn in your 7th could mean that you're getting lack of commitment because Saturn's retrograde from a relationship. And now Jupiter's in the 5th house, which means you've got people going out to parties and doing things with other people. And like there's some romantic interest there. Equally, it means that you can shift your focus away from relationships where you're not getting the commitment or clarity that you need. Focus on your friends, go out and socialize and like build community and like hang out with your girlfriends, go to parties, go to dinners, meet people. You will probably either meet somebody who a friend introduces you to, or there will be somebody that comes in that will act as a friend and they could become a relationship. Saturn going through your 7th house is a 3-year period. And like there is a sense of Saturn coming in and he's going to kind of break down any of the relationships that aren't sustainable in the long term. And now he's getting ready to leave at the beginning of the year and he could actually leave you something rather significant. But I will tell you, if you stay, if you wait for him, it looks like you're going to be disappointed and you'll have him, but you won't really have him. So I think with like the Ace of Coins coming up earlier, you know, I do think that that's an indication that there can be a shift coming. Keep your eyes out for a Taurus. I think the Ace of Coins and like the Hierophant can be a Taurus, or it can be saying something that's happening around the Taurus full moon, or something that's going to be happening around, you know, when we get into Taurus season next year. But I do think that relationships are going to get better if you don't hang around and wait for him, because to me, it's not so much about what you told me, is that the cards are saying he's not trustworthy, and he's telling you what you want to hear, and it's going to leave you high and dry, right? Sorry to say. Let me know what happens. Hopefully that gives you some insight, and he's staying blocked. She's not wasting time anymore. Okay, well, we like to hear that. Come back and let me know what happens. I've got Vanessa, and then I've got Brianna and Stacy. What's up, Vanessa? I got your little love note. She says, people didn't let me enter all my questions. Question, let's see, hold on a second. I see so many things coming through. I have 4 questions. Okay, so we're gonna do 4 separate cards, right? I think. Why is my current boss on top of everything I'm doing, giving borderline micromanagement? What's up with that? 2, I want to go back to the old department I've expressed interest at least 3 times this year. Will I ever get to go back? What can I do? 3, will my unhappiness and lack of connection subside? I have been a major funk for months and I do not like my new department. It lacks direction. Work is confusing and never felt at ease. The people are snotty and judgmental. Do I look elsewhere for another job, or will this pass and get better? And then 4, did someone throw evil on me because I'm not myself, constantly clashing with my daughter to the point where I don't want to even be near her. We never see eye to eye and she doesn't respect me. What is up with me, please? All right, so I'm gonna look at the work stuff first, and then we'll see what's going on with like the last question. So kind of like putting it all together, you know, you feel like your boss is on your back. You're wondering if you're ever going to go back to that old department that you're interested in. You're wondering if there's anything that you can do, and you want to know if your unhappiness and lack of connection with this department will subside. So let's take a look. What can we tell her? Should she be looking for a job elsewhere, or will this pass? What's up, Robbie? All right, give me some information on this job situation, please. For Vanessa, does she stay? Does she go? Will it get better? And what's up with her boss being all over her back? All right, in this order, you get the Queen of Pentacles, you get the 8 of Cups, and there's the Hierophant again. Will that be the card of the evening? Maybe. So what's the deal? Queen of Pentacles, obviously you're a Virgo, right? But do you have like a female boss that's like your superior, or somebody that you have to kind of check in with? Because you know, the Queen of Pentacles coming up in the first position, it can mean 2 things. It can mean that, you know, you're solid in where you are now. You may not be thrilled, but you're making the sacrifice and you're staying committed to being in that position because it's going to pay the bills, and because you feel like, hey, it's the logical thing to do rather than just picking up and leaving. The other way that I look at this is that in the past position can be saying like you're dealing with somebody who is a little bit of a busybody, or a boss, or somebody who's nitpicky, or somebody who's kind of like watching what you're doing. She can be kind of cold and detached and very focused on business. The 8 of Cups coming up now is basically saying, like, in your mind, you're questioning whether or not you should leave. Yes, female Cancer, I just know her birthday is in July. Okay, so, you know, the 8 of Cups is saying where you're at right now is like, I want to leave the department I'm at. And I think you can. I don't think you need to full-blown go and look for another job. I think you should be able to, like, switch departments. I know that for people who have, like, all of the, you know, Cancer in their horoscope, whether it's like their rising sign or their sun sign, you're going to see throughout this next like couple of months, there's going to be major changes that's going to happen in work zone. You're going to have a Mercury retrograde in your 6th house of work next month. You're also going to be seeing that your 6th house ruler, Jupiter, is in your rising or sun sign. I can't remember which one it is, but I know it's Cancer. And the Hierophant coming up is talking about going into a place where you feel like that's going to have more of like a professional environment. It's going to be more, not rigid, but it's going to have like more refined, people that you're working with, or that it's going to be a little bit more stable in terms of your environment. You're going to feel like there's better guidance. Like, yes, if you want to switch departments, you can. Look for that around the full moon in Taurus. Look for that also around the retrograde in November, as late as about April, May of next year. But I don't think picking up and moving and going to another job is a good idea. She says, my old boss is saying there is no department need at the moment, equal to no openings. Right, but the thing is that when you see the Queen coming up with the Eight of Cups, it's basically talking about being in a situation where you're like, okay, I'm either in a situation that I'm not digging who I'm working with, or I'm looking at going into a situation where somebody is saying, no, we're not available, or they're being kind of cold and detached. Eight of Cups is about a search. So this may mean that you're like, okay, I'm going to check in with HR. I'm going to see what other positions or openings are going to be within the company. I'm going to start reevaluating whether or not I want to leave and go to another department. It may not be one that you've worked in before, because sometimes when the Eight of Cups comes up, it's about really moving away from something that is like known to you. Like, it's going into the unknown. It's going into a department or into a position or into a job that you have no experience in or that you have not worked in before. So as much as you want to go back to where you were, I don't really think that's a thing. Can things improve? Maybe. I mean, you might see that there is some turnover or some changes that's happening with some of the staff that's in your department, but it can take until about spring of next year. I know a lot of my Cancer risings are just like super unhappy with work right now. With Jupiter in their first house and with also the retrograde in their sixth house, a lot of them are either changing jobs or they're trying to kind of get into new departments. I would not make any crazy decisions and try to get out of what you're in right now, because I think doing that during the retrograde is not necessarily going to be very fortuitous, because it can put you in a position where there is a bit of like a lapse between, taking other jobs. And if you're open to looking at other things, you can. But I have a feeling that the Hierophant is more going to be somebody who is in HR, or you're going to be talking to somebody who's like involved in hiring, or there's going to be other things that are going to become available, perhaps come, the end of the year, that you could potentially consider segueing into. But don't be afraid to venture into something that you haven't done before. You're not crazy. I mean, whoever you're working with, whether it's the department or the boss, it does seem like they're creating a situation where it's not conducive to like people like feeling comfortable. Like, it feels like it's like kind of driving people away. And I don't think you're the only one that's kind of feeling like that. I don't really know if there's a lot you can do talking to HR, talking to the manager about it, because to me it seems like you're better off waiting to see when another position becomes available. And you'll be surprised. You might hear that there's going to be either some changes going on with people who are going to be quitting, or you're going to be hearing that there's going to be like new hiring opportunities with that retrograde in your sixth. She says, you look within. Yeah, this is not about going out and finding a new job. Like, nothing here is saying you have to end your job. It's saying that you're realizing that the current position you're in right now is a dead end. And it's better for you to go and talk with somebody who's going to be involved with hiring, or somebody who's going to be talking about job placement that might be in other departments. But I don't necessarily think it's going back to where you were. In fact, going back to your old job while you're having a retrograde in your sixth house, I don't think is a good idea. Come next year, when Saturn and Neptune go into Aries and they move into your 10th house, you're going to be doing something new. So it's saying it's inevitable. If you stay and you work through it, probably sometime between February and April, you're going to start a new position anyway. Whether it's a new job outside of the company or a new job in the company, there will be something new. For now, it's better for you to kind of look within and see what's going on. All right, so let's see what it looks like, right? If you were potentially to look elsewhere. So this is if you look elsewhere. This is if you stay within. Okay, so looking elsewhere, you get the Five of Swords. It's basically saying like dead end, feeling like you're trying to find something, like feeling frustrated. Like, now is not the time to look elsewhere. If you're going to do that, I'd wait a couple months. Wait till close to the new year. Staying there, Four of Pentacles, is saying, well, you're not crazy about, like staying there and being in that situation, but you have the security and you're not willing to give it up. So you don't leave until you have another position that you can kind of segue from, whether it's in or out of the company. And I would focus on trying to look within, at least for the better part of the next couple of months. No, I don't think the boss is singling you out. I mean, the Queen of Coins coming up with the Hierophant can mean it's just somebody who's just a bit of like a hard ass and she's just on top of everybody. It's not necessarily just you, right? And the Eight of Cups, the Eight of Coins is also like, some people can't take it and will actually leave, or they will like try to transfer. So you're not the only one who has dealt with that. But I would definitely stay there for now. And then you also want to know, did someone throw the evil eye on me because I am just not myself? I'm constantly clashing with my daughter to the point where I don't want to talk or be near her. We never see eye to eye, and we don't have respect mutually is what it sounds like. So what is up with me? All right, so let's see. What can we tell her about that? I get the Temperance card, the Strength card, the Moon card. Wow, that's quite the spread. All majors. Interesting that the Strength card is like, you see like a woman that's like approaching a lion and like trying to kind of like subdue the lion, even though the lion's like ferocious and kind of dangerous. I do feel like that can talk about like healing, and particularly between you and your daughter. I think the Temperance card and the Strength card is saying it's like a battle of the egos. The Temperance card does talk about like patience and healing and giving your guys a little bit of space or a little bit of time to let things kind of sort themselves out. This can also mean that there is not a need to feel like you have to rush fixing the relationship or trying to just smooth everything over. That in many ways, if you find that you're going from having extreme conflicts to quickly making up, that the extreme conflicts keep coming up because you guys aren't getting to the root of some of the issues. So I don't think it's that somebody is doing anything between you two. It may be beneficial for you guys to sit down and kind of talk about it. And, you know, the Strength card and the Temperance card could be about a mutual understanding that's like, hey, whatever is going on, like we need to clear this between us, and like, let's ritualize and like find a way to be able to kind of heal the relationship. And the Strength card can talk a lot about like the willingness to kind of put the ego aside and be willing to, you know, be gentle and like kind with each other and kind of heal through the situation. The Temperance card and the Moon card is interesting too, because that kind of talks about doing rituals revolving around like the lunar cycles, like the new or the full moon. And it also talks explicitly about like healing relational dynamics that could be like generational. So it could be like, oh, mom to daughter or daughter to grandmother, or like other things that are continuing to kind of happen like throughout your guys' like family lineage. So you may notice that, you know, mom's having an issue with your sister, and then you're having an issue with your daughter, and then mom's having an issue with her ex. Like all of those things are kind of happening at the same time. And it seems to be like interconnected. So I would do something revolving around the full moon. Particularly using like water and fire, and find a way for you guys to sit down and like ritualize it and make the commitment that you're going to be like cleansing and purging out any generational issues, because it doesn't look like it's something that's happened to you. And I know your chart, so I know you're going through like Pluto, I think, is on your south node right now in the 8th house. So that's a lot of purging old emotional kind of themes. I know that Saturn is coming into an opposition with like your Saturn. So it's kind of like taking responsibility in this next year, going like, I'm showing up at work differently. And also I'm managing and navigating, you know, my life differently, and wanting to be seen as an authority figure. And I want respect. And I also want to do things differently than how my family has kind of done it in a relational sense. She says, is my stress, paranoia, and anxiety a cause for my boss department, or is it something deeper? I just feel really aloof and not motivated to do anything. I think part of it is timing, right? Like the Temperance card means that it may not be the time to feel like you need to start working on these things yet. The aloofness is, I think, primarily the fact that a lot of the planets are getting ready to kind of like turn retrograde, so we're not really feeling incentivized to move forward and make any change. And especially if you're like a cardinal sign or a cardinal rising sign, like you're getting a bit of a break before planets kind of shift back into the cardinal signs in the new year. So it's timing. And I think really this is about prioritizing working on the relationship with your daughter, and then figuring out what's going to be next when it comes to work. But internalizing stuff from work, I mean, you can protect yourself a lot with Jupiter in your first house, with prayer, with wearing, you know, necklaces or things, or even having crystals like in your bra, or having something that's like around your chest, and anything that's going to also like neutralize like negative emotions, right? So I think of like white opal, I think of selenite, I think of fluorite. You can wear pearl, that's Cancer. You can wear silver, anything that's going to kind of cool off or like help you like cleanse any attachment to some of these negative emotions. But that Jupiter stuff will help you. So it can also be that you're doing like rituals and prayers before you're leaving the house or going to work, or you want to wear something that is kind of like religious or spiritual in nature, but make sure it's a longer chain so it sits in front of your chest, and that'll help you throughout the Jupiter transit. Florida water, right? Any like liquids, yeah, you could do Florida water too. They make it in a spray can. Some botanicas in LA, you can get it in a spray can. I know that they have that, but rituals around the moon and working with elements that are connected to the moon. And I think also, you know, having some of the retrogrades and the eclipses and things that have been impacting Virgos have been gnarly. The South Node's going over your sun, so it's kind of like you going, I don't even feel like talking about it. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to go back and forth and deal with the details. There is a sense of just wanting to like be detached, you know, and that's part of the transits, but you'll start to see that kind of subside as you're getting into the new year. I hope you guys can do some kind of like ritual together because that would be good with those cards. Hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, so that was Vanessa. We have got, let's see. We've got Brianna, we've got Stacy, we've got Venus and Leo. Thanks, Vanessa, I appreciate it. She's been with me for a long time. I've been reading for you for like 10 years. Let's see, so we've got Brianna. Brianna says, hey Candace, happy Scorpio season. Today is my birthday. One card pull. What message does Spirit have for me? I'm a Gemini rising, Virgo moon, Scorpio sun. Well, isn't that going to be fun, having your chart ruler go retrograde in your 6th house over your sun sign? Fun. Time to get your organization and health and work in order, girl. All right, well, let's see what we can tell Brianna. Happy birthday to you. I hope it's a good one. What does the tarot say for you for your birthday? I like it. Another card we haven't seen yet. You get the star card. I like this for you a lot, especially like when I think about, you know, Pluto and Aquarius. For like, you know, Scorpios, it's going to be about emotional cleansing. For Virgos, it's going to be about healthier habits. For Geminis, it's going to be about a complete shift and transformation revolving around your beliefs and also travel. I think that the star card is saying it's a year of like healing and like transition, and that this can be a period of like finding your tribe and finding your people and like going after your goals. So I don't know what annual perfection you're in or how old you are, but I feel like the star card is really focusing on the goals and the intentions that you're setting this year, right? So maybe take a look at, you know, planets that you may natally have in Aquarius, or what's going on with some of the aspects. You know, do you see Uranus that's trining Pluto? I mean, slightly still, but is there going to be other things that are kind of hitting your 9th house? And if it's your annual perfection year 1, everything's new, right? So the Gemini transits, which you'll see kind of more so, I mean, the full moon in Gemini, but you'll see it more next year. Uranus is connected to your 9th house, right? And it's going back and forth in and out of Gemini. So you have that strong connection to the star card that's just kind of like, I can heal myself and I can shift my philosophy and I can also travel and like my goals can change and I can make new friends. And so a lot of it, I would assume, I mean, you've been through an annual perfection year 12 and then you go through the annual perfection year 1 and then the lights turn on, you know, so things get a little bit more clear. Maybe you feel like you're coming out of this last year and you're coming out of like having been in a hole and it really kind of got things in order in terms of like your priorities, and now you're really focusing on what your goals are and making them happen and like who you're aligning yourself with, or, you know, where you want to travel, what you want to do. So watch the Mercury retrograde transits. Obviously you're going to have one in November. There's going to be another one in March that'll be in Pisces, and then there's going to be another one, I think, at the end of June, beginning of July. That's going to be taking place in Cancer. So those are going to be peak periods for you. Go and take a look at where your natal Mercury is, or if you have planets in the 1st house, that'll give you more of a clue. But I love that you pulled the star card with your 9th house ruler on your ascendant in terms of transit. I think that that's going to be about bringing some of your goals to manifestation and like really focusing on, you know, being able to align yourself with like people who support your goals and where you see your life kind of going, even if it's like a little weird and wacky and like sporadic, right? Great card to pull for your birthday. I love that, especially with the eclipses coming in Aquarius pretty soon. We've got Stacy, Venus, and Maria. If you guys want to get in the queue, get in the queue. Let's see what Stacy says. Oh, you know what? Also, I realized we had a, you're welcome. We had a super chat, and I don't want to overlook that person. So, Prue, I'm going to call you Prue. Hello, I won't be in the chat tonight. I'm asking about work. Admin has really been on me and observing me a lot, which is great because I am a new teacher and I need help, but I also feel like they might think I'm stupid and that I suck. I know I'm a good teacher, but with my ADHD, I know my organization and routines in the classroom need some work. The admin who has been observing me is OCD. In the past, OCD workers have thought that I was an idiot or don't care. Anyway, what is my admin team and specifically this person thinking about me? Do they think I'm stupid and that I'm a bad teacher? Happy Scorpio season, God bless. Okay, I got you. So let's take a look at what we can tell Prue in regards to being observed. Maybe she has a little ADHD, but she wants to make sure that she's making a good impression and she wants to know what they think of her and what she needs to know about the status of her teaching career. So this is for you. We've got 1, 2, 3. Cards are slippery. Sorry, guys. They're all over the place. They're new, so they're not really broken in quite yet. All right. In this order, so I get the 2 of Swords, Queen of Pentacles, the Strength card. I can see where she could be a little bit of like a tough cookie, sure. I mean, the 2 of Swords is kind of like a nail biter. Like there is a sense of being like, overthinking everything that you're doing. You know, am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? Like breathe when that person is around, take a breath. Because I feel like trying to be 2 or 3 steps ahead with the 2 of Swords coming up is like impossible because you get so like wound up about overthinking things or what people are going to say or like trying to make sure that you're focusing on one area and then something kind of happens in the background. Like take a breath. There has not been a decision that's been made yet. So the jury is still out in terms of right now what they think in terms of your presentation or, how you're teaching or your skills. Like that hasn't been determined yet. It looks like they're still reevaluating you. Queen of Coins comes up. So she is a tough cookie. She is someone that's hard to kind of impress. It can be somebody who's also like a little bit more rigid or routine. It can represent like an earth sign energy. So it can be like a Capricorn who can be like a bit of a ball buster, or like a Virgo who can be somebody who's very organized, or a Taurus who's just very kind of rigid. But, that can also mean that, through you having somebody around that's kind of putting pressure on you or evaluating you and bringing certain traits or certain things to your awareness, like it's actually going to help build you as an even better teacher. I don't think it's going to be a situation where they're going to, give you this long laundry list of things that you're doing wrong and criticize you. I think they're going to bring somebody in, have them, kind of watch what you're doing. They'll come in and they'll say, all right, this is what we think, and this is what you're doing right, and this is what you can improve on. And I say that because the Queen of Pentacles comes up with a strength card. So it's basically saying they're going to play on what are your strengths? How can we kind of, encourage more of that? What can we give you positive feedback on? Where can we build you up? It's not really about tearing you down. So I do think that she's difficult to kind of impress. I would not be overthinking things right now, and know that you're going to probably have to sit down and you're going to go into it where they're going to be a little bit more understanding and graceful, and be really letting you know that, you know what, we want to help you kind of develop into an even better teacher. This is some ideas and some things that we have, and like this is where we feel like we can kind of help you build on that so that way you can stay. So will they give feedback? For sure, but I don't feel like it's going to be in a harsh manner. And I just want you to not be so tense and like freaking out or worried when they're around, because I feel like that will almost like knock you off a little bit, and like don't be trying to kind of plan things in advance or kind of get everything too much in order, because even though you say that you have an issue with organization, to me it seems like there's a method to the madness. It's almost like you're going to almost perform even better when you feel like you don't have to be heavily organized or have everything like in its perfect place. Because you're going to teach in a like much more natural way. Like paying attention to your natural talent is very much going to be the strength card. And so I think that they're going to see that you're doing a good job, but they're going to show you areas where you can improve. But likely you're going to be staying. So hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, we've got, who else? That was Brenna. We've got Stacy, and then Venus and Maria. And if you guys want to get in, you can get in before we call last call. So get in the queue. You can scan the QR code for your reading. All right, Stacy says, can I get a reading on what's happening between my partner and I? I got a synastry reading with you, and our chart had these destined points, but we're going through a period that is really hard, and he's pushing me away. All right, well, let's see what the cards have to say about what's going on with Stacy and her partner. She's feeling some distance right now, and she wants to know, you know, what's going on, why is he pushing her away, and what insight can you give us about the period that they're in, and what is the outcome? All right, in this order, I get the Page of Swords, the Four of Swords, the Eight of Coins. All right, so a little bit of a rocky start. Obviously, when you're dealing with the Suit of Swords, there's a lot of tension, there is strife, there is communication issues. Sometimes there can also feel like this sense of there being like conflict, right? Not physical, but like verbal conflict or communication issues. You're feeling like there's just some strife that's in the air. So I don't know your guys' signs or anything. I don't remember, but what is coming up is the Page of Swords. So this can be talking about right now, you guys can be communicating in a very immature way, okay? Or there is a sense of wanting to have a conversation and sit down and talk about how you're feeling or what he thinks or who said what or who did what. And it almost seems premature to do that at this moment. Take into consideration that in the next month, we're going to see Mercury go retrograde. So we're going to have communication issues. We're going to see oppositions to Uranus. So there's going to be some static. We're also going to see that Mercury will retrograde conjunct Mars. So there's going to be some fighting. And then we're going to see Mercury come into conjunction with Venus later in November. So surprise, anything that's happened over the last 2 or 3 weeks has been the pre-retrograde shadow, which means it's going to be the same aspects that it's going to go through again over the next month. So likely, maybe some of this was impacting your chart. Look at where Scorpio, look at where Sagittarius, look at where Gemini is, maybe look at where Libra is. All of these things or these areas are potentially going to be kind of impacting you. She says, he's going through a divorce. I'm an Aries ascendant, Libra moon, and Cap sun. Okay. So, you know, I think if this were me, just knowing that like the Mercury retrograde for you is going to eventually land with a Venus conjunction in Scorpio, that's where you're going to want to watch. You're going to want to watch what happens around that time. When Mercury and Venus conjunct as an Aries rising, it's about having a conversation about what somebody else is going through and what they're dealing with and the changes and like whether or not there could be togetherness. And Venus is going through Libra right now, but it's squaring Jupiter. So it means that they're having to deal with like big kind of like life changes. She says he's a Leo ascendant, Gemini sun, Sag moon. He came in when Pluto was conjunct my Venus and your Lilith. Okay, so it was like a third party situation. So I think with the Page of Swords, it's like you guys can have conversations now, but I don't think it's going to be necessarily the best timing. I also think that, you know, the Four of Swords is saying it's a time to let the situation be, to like let it rest and not feel like you need to push anything. Like, even though there's a lot of anxiousness revolving around like what's going to happen or where things are going, I feel like he's going through a season right now where you may not be feeling like you're getting as much connection or communication or feedback from him. And that sucks. But by the same token, if you're trying to rush this right now, it's almost like you're trying to rush it before he has really finally put the kibosh on some of the things he's trying to wrap up. So if he's trying to go through a divorce and he's got other things that he's trying to finish, I would say like you have to let him do that. She says this all happened on the new moon in Libra, which was on your moon in the 7th, and Jupiter is on your north node. I mean, you know. If Jupiter's on your north node right now, that's good for focusing on your emotions, your home, your family, all of that stuff, but it's still squaring Venus. So it means that you're spending more time at home. You're more kind of maybe lonely. Maybe there's a sense of being more kind of contemplative about what's going to be happening in the future with a relationship. It doesn't necessarily mean that now is the time. I think it's only going to be a matter of 4 weeks, according to the cards, until you guys are going to be feeling like you could be more productive with your communication. Thank God that the final card is the Eight of Coins. So it does mean that you guys feel like you are going to be able to work on your relationship. You're going to be able to refine some of the ways that you guys are showing up. This is about being devoted and being committed and wanting to work on things and not want to lose the relationship and do anything that would put it in jeopardy. It may feel like about a 4-week period where it's going to be a little bit of a lull before there is going to be some regeneration. I would also think about the fact that, Pluto's conjunct your Venus, and it's going to be there on and off for like the next several months. And it is going to be about possibly deciding whether or not, you can wait for this person to get out of this unusual kind of circumstance in a relationship, if you can be friends, or if there's going to be something more. But I'm optimistic that the 8 of Coins is saying that there's been enough commitment and enough that's gone on between the two of you guys that nobody's really willing to walk away. But I do think he's going to need a little bit more time to kind of work through some of the stuff that he's going to be doing. So especially being a Leo, like ascendant, like, the Gemini sun's going through the Mercury retrograde stuff, and his sun sounds like it's in his 11th house. So that's going to be about having the Mercury retrograde that's going to be taking place in his 5th. It's like, am I dating somebody, or can we be friends as I'm going through some of these changes? Perhaps maybe, you guys are going to have to decide whether or not there is room for you guys to be able to maintain some kind of a friendship while he's going through it, or if you need to take some space. And I would be really looking to February of next year, when he starts having eclipses in his 7th house in Sagittarius, for some real defining moments that are going to be really shifting his relationships and opening the door to being able to be better connected or committed to somebody who has Aquarius placements, like your Venus. She says, my Juno is conjunct his North Node. I mean, that synastry is great because it talks a lot about like that person coming in and teaching the other person a lot about what it means to be committed in relationships. But I also know that, if Venus rules your 7th house and Pluto's on top of your Venus, that's a long 2-year period of a lot of like intense, painful, heartbreaking, transformative things. And something has to be killed off before something can kind of like be renewed or revived. And so right now, I think with the Page of Swords and like the 4 of Swords, it's saying he's going through his process of mourning, and like there's a sense of him having to kind of work through that and close that out so there can actually be something new and to build a new foundation in a relationship. And I think that he has intention on doing that, but there could be a lot of like financial kind of stressors and things that are going on for him right now throughout this retrograde. Yeah, and especially think about the Leo rising. Are you kidding me? The retrograde is going to go into their 4th house, so it's about selling homes, home changing, moving kids around, things like that. Yeah, he's really going through it, and I can give him space, but he seems to be saying you're broken and it's heartbreaking. Well, I mean, if that's the response that you're getting from him, I would be really surprised if this is something that he said during a retrograde, because if he comes prior to the retrograde, because if he comes back around and if he's trying to be friendly, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. And like the Page of Swords can be about somebody saying something reckless and being like, oh yeah, we're done, this isn't working, like, you know what, I need some space, only to then work on himself or work on the situation and then come back around, right? The bottom card that I get is the Chariot card. So it is saying that it's like there is going to be some kind of forward motion. Give him the space. If he's telling you, hey, you're broken up, I'd be like, okay, cool, go. See what he does. Watch what starts happening when Pluto comes back on your Venus and you start having those eclipses in February. I think it's good to have a clean break for right now and not be friends, because he needs to realize that, like, if he's really saying, hey, we're done, give him the space to work on himself. Give it about 8 weeks and see what happens. Yeah, it's a lot of financial stuff because the retrogrades and everything are in your 8th house. So he's stressed about what's going on with money and like the separation, Hopefully that's helpful. Let me know. Good luck. We've got Venus in Leo, and then Maria and Adriana. If you guys are wanting to get a reading, get in the queue before we call final call. All right, Venus in Leo. How significant is this new man, Damien, in my life? We have incredible synastry, lots of North Node connections, Venus, Jupiter in each other's 1st houses, my Juno and his part of fortune on his ascendant, but his moon is in my 12th. What do the cards say? Sounds like some pretty good synastry, all things considered. Let's take a look. I'm Venus in Leo. I'm a Virgo sun, Leo rising. Okay. Venus in Leo, Mars in Sagittarius, moon. He's a Scorpio rising, Gemini sun, Cancer moon. Also a Venus in Leo. Well, Venus is nice. I would much rather have somebody's moon in my 12th house than have their sun in my 12th house. That's just me. Moon in the 12th house is fine. It's the Scorpio rising you got to watch out for if you've got all that Leo in your chart. But let's take a look. So let's pull a card. What can we tell Miss Venus in Leo about this new man, Damien? What do you think about the connection between the two? I'm not surprised. Being a Scorpio rising, you get the 7 of Cups. It's always interesting. Like Scorpio and Leo energy, I feel like all of the fixed signs are very similar in many ways, even though they're different elements. But they're both very dramatic. Like Scorpio, masculine energy, like Leo, feminine energy. Like that's a sign. Those two signs square each other. There can be a lot of intensity, but I'm almost wondering if you're kind of like, what's the catch? What am I missing? Like what's wrong with him? Or like, what is he not telling me? Like Scorpio risings are very private. They're very passionate. They're very intense. And like most of the time they're not hiding anything. But sounds like you've got a guy that's got a Scorpio rising and he's got his sun in his whole sign 8th house. That's a very strong Scorpio signature, right? You want to go and you want to look at, obviously, his Venus. So if his Venus is in Leo, it rules the 7th house, and it's sitting, you know, at the top of the chart, he's going to be more willing to be in a public relationship. He's going to want to be with somebody who's going to look good, who's going to kind of be like, you know, his female counterpart, like kind of power couple-esque when you have Venus towards the 10th house. But I kind of feel like there may be some stuff coming up for you where you're like, what am I missing or what am I not seeing? And I wouldn't get too hung up about the 12th house if it's the moon. That's not as big of a deal because that can mean that there is like a really strong psychic or emotional connection. I would be more focused on looking at, okay, your Venuses are conjunct, but what's going on with your Mars and your Venuses? Do they see each other? Is there going to be good chemistry? What's going on with your moons, right? Are your moons going to be trining or sextiling or aspecting each other? What's going to be going on with your Mercuries? You know, can you guys communicate well? Mercury's going to turn retrograde in Scorpio next month. All right. So that means that you're going to see a Mercury retrograde for him that's starting in his ascendant sign, or I guess kind of going back into his ascendant sign, and it's going to oppose Uranus and it's going to kind of conjunct Mars and Venus. So they can have, I think Scorpio risings are having like this issue like opening up, like whether they're single and they don't really know how to like totally put themselves out there and be vulnerable. Or if it's committed Scorpio risings or people who are dating, they're kind of like, I'm in this relationship, but I'm needing to learn how to communicate in a different way. Like that's what I'm kind of seeing with a lot of those placements. For you, you know, being it sounds like you're what, a Virgo rising? I'm trying to look at all the stuff you're sending me. I'm a Virgo, Leo rising, Virgo sun. So the retrograde is going to start in your 5th house and go into your 4th. And it's about more vulnerability, right? I'm more visual, so I'd have to like look at the chart. But if you want to do the synastry, come back. We can always look at the synastry and really kind of dig deep. But I like the Juno North Node. I like Venus to Venus. I'm not crazy about hard aspects between, you know, Venus and Saturn or Mercury and the moon or, you know, that kind of stuff. But the 7 of Cups is basically saying, like, you're still trying to figure him out. Like, there is a sense of you being like, this guy's got layers to him. Like the more that I talk to him and I get to know him and I kind of like try to figure him out, I realize that there's a lot more depth. And like, obviously if you're a Scorpio rising with an 8th house sun, like there is going to be a lot of depth there. That's not a normal Gemini. That's a Gemini that's going to be very inquisitive, very insightful, very intuitive. Listen to your gut when it comes to getting to know him. Be mindful that there's probably going to be some communication issues, knowing that, you know, Mercury's going to retrograde on his ascendant. But when that Venus connection starts happening with Mercury retrograde, it can be a time where he can actually open up more and like be a little bit more vulnerable with a partner. Uranus is also going back into his 7th house whole sign. So that's going to create a lot of changes in relationships, and it's one final wrap up. And I think maybe this almost strikes me as like somebody who comes into your life with this card that like makes you realize what you want. Like you're either going to walk away from this going like, that guy really taught me like how I want to be treated, how I don't want to be treated, what I want in a relationship, what I'm looking for. Or somebody who you get to know and then you realize that there's like a really deep connection. It just takes time, and also time to kind of break down some of those walls to become a little bit more vulnerable and kind of like come together. But yeah, you never know what you're going to get with the 7 of Cups. And I think that there's a lot more that you're still kind of figuring out. Neither good nor bad. It's just saying it's going to take a little bit more time. Timing wise, this talks about the latter part of November, that's when you're really going to start to kind of see more in terms of the different facets of the relationship. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Definitely let me know what happens. Interesting chart. I've got Maria here and Adriana. What's up, Melissa? How's it going? Maria says, hey Candace, can you please pull 3 cards for any advice on my career? More specifically, will I continue to climb the ladder or am I being taken advantage of? We have got you here as a Taurus rising, Scorpio sun, Virgo moon. It's a good question. I think for like the For the Taurus risings, you know, watching Venus come into Scorpio pretty soon is going to be something you're going to want to watch. So when Venus comes into a square with Pluto, it's going to be a lot about your relationship to either your employer or people you're working with. So that's going to happen. When is that going to happen? I'm just going to give you the date so you can be aware of it. Kind of like the 6th and the 7th of November. Like, be mindful of that time because Venus is your chart ruler. It's going to go through your 7th house and square Pluto in the 10th. And then you're going to start having eclipses in February. That's about climbing up the career ladder. But let's see if the tarot agrees with that. Thank you. All right, Maria, so this is for you. Should be taken advantage of. Is she going to climb the ladder? What does she need to know? Again, we've got the 8 of Coins, we have got the Sun card, and we have got the Queen of Wands. I actually really like this for making moves and making progress and climbing up the ladder. I would have to say you want to go and look at your Venus placement and what's going on with Venus in terms of like relationships with other people. Look at aspects between Venus and your 10th house lord. But I can tell you that I know with next year's February eclipses in Aquarius, it's about climbing the ladder because the North Node's going through the 10th house. It will square Uranus, so I would watch for some tension in February with, you know, bosses. I think you're going to see a little bit earlier, honestly. I also think that the retrograde that's going to be taking place in your 7th house can be going back and forth, trying to find ways to be diplomatic and working with what can feel like some intense people. I don't think it's worth making any changes right now. I would want to stick around and kind of see where you're at. And if there's changes with the company or the departments or with management, you know, in the new year, and if that puts you in a position of being able to go up for, you know, a higher status, because that would be the time to do it. The 8 of Coins talks about being super dedicated and committed to where you are. And like, you're kind of like the workhorse. The Sun card talks a lot about like success and things coming your way and recognition after a lot of hard work. The Queen of Wands talks a lot about you staying really kind of committed and dedicated to your path and your passion, and also being a little bit more confident and standing out and getting more recognition. Putting that all together, I mean, I think you're probably going to find that the fire months are going to be a little bit more dynamic. Sag season could be really good for negotiating new benefits or raises. You may also find as you're getting into Aries season next year, it's about you reevaluating and reassessing what changes have happened at work. And then I will also assume that you're going to have an opportunity to also, you know, make more money next year as you're starting to see kind of Jupiter aspecting things in your 10th house and also sextiling your 2nd house. So I wouldn't leave. I would stay. Being taken advantage of, I mean, the 8 of Coins, you know, you might be somebody who's got more experience or you've been there for a longer period of time, or people know that you know the ropes. And so they're like, well, you know, we'll give it to her. She's going to do it, or she's going to do it right. Or they know that you're not going to cut corners. But I think there's a sense of pride in the work that you're doing and that you really feel like you're where you're supposed to be. And I think you're going to start standing out more, right? Like, look at all of like the bright colors and the oranges and the reds and the sunflowers. It's like, you're going to start noticing as you're getting into the fire months at the end of this year, into next year, that there's going to be turning points where people are going to start kind of catching you and seeing what you're doing. And you're going to get a lot more visibility and possibly be put in positions where you could be doing management, leadership, or, you know, going for higher positions with that eclipse in February. Watch for some support that could come from a fire sign. Could be an Aries, could be a Leo, could be a Sag. I also think this is just about a boost in your own confidence and feeling like a lot more confident in the work that you're doing and that really kind of shining through. And I hope that that's going to materialize as like some kind of negotiation or bonus or like benefits that are coming your way, because you have some good transits for getting ready to negotiate that. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Let me know what happens. All right, we're going to call last call. So if you guys want to get your readings in, get them now before we finish up. I've got Adriana and Dorothy. So Adriana says, for my friend, born 12/30/2000, so they're a Capricorn, when will they find a new job? Well, let's take a look. Let's see if we get a timing card for Adriana's friend. So can you give us some information on when they will find a new job? Knight of Cups. All right, so this talks about water months, okay? So we're looking at end of October through about end of November. Then you're looking again at about end of February through about mid-March. But the Knight of Cups is positive because this is about some offer coming in, right? The Knights deal with, somebody kind of flooding in, coming and being like, hey, do you want to have an interview? Do you want to come back? Do you want to work with us? It's about a good emotional connection, possibly dealing with a water sign. I know they're a Capricorn, but it can be like a Cancer, a Pisces, or a Scorpio. This might also be stuff that's going to be more like work that is creative, compassionate, care-driven, things that are going to be connected to art or hospitality. And the confirmation card that I got with that is the Six of Cups. So it can mean that you end up going for an interview and talking to somebody, and then they're like, okay, well, we're going to bring you back and we're going to do a second interview, or they're going to say, we want you to come back and work for us. So I don't know if they have worked for somebody previously and there's going to be openings or opportunities to return, or they're contemplating going back and doing something temporarily. But I would say, it's pretty safe to say over the next 6 weeks, there actually could be a job that comes in during Scorpio season, and a reconnection or a callback from either an interview or a company or a position that they've worked for in the past. I know for a lot of Capricorns, the key here with the retrogrades is going to be about networking. So it's about talking to friends, connecting with other people, putting their information out on resume sites, and, following up with friends and people that they've worked with in the past to see if possibly there is some room to be able to kind of reconnect and get back into the job market. So hopefully that's helpful for your friend, Adriana. All right, I've got Dorothy here, and Dorothy says, would it be beneficial for me to start a business online that is more spiritually oriented? Things have been tough and my side hustles have gotten me through, have been analytical. All right, so she wants to know, should she do something more spiritual as a potential side hustle? Certainly having all that Pisces in the 10th house, I mean, it can't hurt having Saturn and Neptune going back into that sign. But let's take a look. Let's see. So what does the tarot think? Is it a good idea for Dorothy to consider doing something of a more spiritual nature that's less analytical as a side hustle? Well, the card that I get for you is the Ten of Swords, and I feel like this is less about whether or not it's successful. It's more about your views and your perspective on what has and has not worked in the past, or whether or not you're feeling like you're hitting a wall now. So if I remember correctly, you're Gemini rising, right? And you have like that Pisces in your 10th house. I think if that's the case, Mercury turning retrograde in your 7th, that could be an opportunity for you to possibly go and try to connect with clients. The problem is that the retrograde is going to go into your 6th house. So number one, you can't go into this being like, all right, well, I have some hangups and some concerns about what didn't happen in the past or what didn't work. And like, is it worth my time? Because if you go into that mentality with the 5 of Pentacles coming up, confirming that, it's going to be dead from the start. I think it's actually a really good idea for a lot of Gemini and Gemini risings to use the retrograde to your advantage. When it leaves your 7th house and it goes into your 6th house, it's about, well, do I have the time in my schedule? If not, can I create it? Do I have the necessary skills to do this type of work? If not, can I learn them? And it's going to go retrograde, and it's going to conjunct Venus, and it's also going to be conjunct Mars again. So it's going to give you the opportunity to get really in tune with your spidey senses, Scorpio, and make the necessary adjustments and changes to your schedule and your habits so you can do more of that. What do I like? It's going to trine Jupiter and Cancer in your 2nd house, which is good for anything intuitive and making money from home and having clients. I also like that it's going to trine Saturn and Neptune in Pisces in your 10th house, which is going to be really good for anything spiritual and also maybe giving you a little bit of a break or something that's helping you kind of segue away from what you were doing work-wise and like creating a secondary source of income. So if it does pick up momentum and you could get to the beginning of next year and you could really segue out of what you're doing, it would be possible for you to do that. But timing is everything. So the reality is that if you were going to launch something, ideally you would be launching something already by like mid to the end of October. If not, you need to work through the retrograde and start kind of putting something together, creating a schedule, developing the skills, and then also getting ready to probably be open to launching it at the end of November, beginning of December. So it would take about a month. Because if you don't do that with that structure, it's not going to be successful, just knowing the astrology. And the Ten of Swords is also saying like, also not going into it, having like a plan or a vision or having, you know, these things organized, you're going to feel very defeated and you're going to feel exhausted and you're going to be like, oh my God, this is just too much for me. Like, I'm not even going to try to do this again. When in reality, it's just a matter of timing and kind of structure. You will have other eclipses in Pisces in your 10th house next year. You will have a retrograde in Pisces next year. So a lot of it can be about some segues and some changes that you're making now that's creating supplemental income. And if it ends up doing well and you can kind of start segueing out of what you're doing, you could do it as early as the spring. But I feel like the Ten of Swords is kind of saying like you're going into it with a sense of like caution and concern as to whether or not you want to invest too much time or energy. And I would say keep it simple, make sure that you have the time to do it and also that you have the necessary skills. And, you know, don't throw in the towel too soon. If you want something to be good, either launching something the very first day of November, I know the astrology that day is good, or you really need to wait until like the beginning of December to do like a full launch. I feel that the analytical stuff is what I've done, and I feel like it's, I feel like a gift from Saturn. Well, I mean, and here's the other thing. There's other things you can do, right? Like I think of like a Gemini rising, if you're having a Mercury retrograde with like Venus and Mars in your 6th, I would be house sitting, pet sitting, I would be dog walking. I would be trying to do digital administrative work. I would be trying to do remote personal assistant work. I would be considering picking up work and doing stuff in hospitality. I would be seeing if you could do accounting or anything like where you're running the books and stuff for like businesses. Like those would be good things that you could do because it's going to work well with your astrology and it's going to trine things, which is going to, you know, bring you the opportunity to bring in some extra cash. So I think of like the, you know, the Saturn stuff kind of on your moon. It's about dealing with houses, dealing with women, dealing with food, dealing with real estate, dealing with dogs. You know, it could be any of those things. It's not limited to just like spiritual stuff. So just giving you some ideas of some things that you can kind of consider and think about. Hopefully that was helpful for you, Dorothy. I would love to hear like what happens if you end up kind of making that segue at the end of the year. It might be a good time to get serious about a side hustle. Brianna snuck in there at the end and she says, "Hi, I'm in the new phase of my custody situation. That work and life has really taken a toll on me lately, and I'm going through it mentally, physically, and emotionally. My next court date is on 12/18. What do the cards say, and what guidance do I have for a positive outcome? Thank you." Thanks, Dorothy. All right, Brianna, let's see what I can tell you about this. And a court date at 12/18. Well, that's when the astrology kind of calms down a little bit. Let's take a look and let's see what we can tell you about all of that, especially with where you're at mentally and physically. What do we need to give you guidance on in terms of the outcome, and will it be positive? Oh, I remember, girl. As a Libra rising, going through a court or a legal battle, well, Mercury is retrograde in your 3rd and your 2nd. It's a lot of like, what am I going to get back, right? What time am I going to get back with my kids, or what, you know, visitation am I going to get back, or what am I putting into it versus what I'm getting out of it? Like that's in a nutshell. Things will actually improve with your astrology the later that you get into November, going into December. So the fact that you're going into it, you know, when the astrology is going to be better, I think it can produce a much better outcome. The concerns that I have is like, as you get into December, when Mars and the Sun and Mercury are going through your 3rd house and it's going to square Saturn, you may see some scheduling issues, or there's going to be some challenges revolving around like maintaining, you know, seeing kids, visiting kids, and or managing your health or work. So just kind of take that into consideration. But Wow, 2 aces, Ace of Swords, Ace of Pentacles, and the Devil card coming up. So it's saying like your mind is on 2 things. Number 1, it's like on feeling heard. Maybe in previous situations with like the court case, you have felt like you have made comments, or you've submitted evidence, or you have filed paperwork, or you have gone through the motions of everything the court has asked of you, and you haven't felt heard. And so coming into this, there's a sense of being like, look, I've done everything they've asked me to do. Here's the proof. Here's the evidence. Here is everything I need to kind of back it up. And like, I really want to feel like my voice is being heard and it's being acknowledged now. So that's going to be the focus. Communication is going to be important, as will be documents and timelines. You've also got the Ace of Pentacles, which is talking a lot about like the physical and the financial kind of toll and the expenses that you're putting into it. Aces are good. It means that there's going to be a new decision. Ace of Pentacles means that there is going to be also a new physical or financial kind of decision or order that's going to be put in place. The only hang up here that I see is the Devil card is coming up. So it's saying like, are you going to be feeling that there is some sense of limitation? You know, are they saying, well, you can see your kids, but it has to be, you know, observed visits? Do they say, well, you can only see them, but it's going to be on certain days? Or, you know, we're going to do a trial run. We're going to see how it goes. Like, there is still a sense of there being some involvement or overseeing or like overlooking everything that's going on with the kids. But I do think that because the Devil card talks about breaking out of situations, recognizing and realizing where you've been stuck. And this can also be like, you know, dealing with depression, or, you know, kind of feeling helpless, or falling back into bad sleeping habits or eating habits or health habits. Your mind has to be on really prioritizing your health and making sure that you're investing in yourself and you're eating well, and that you're also building yourself up so that way you go into it not feeling defeated. She says, I've been getting major migraines. Meds aren't as effective, and I've been using MJ, which the court is super on my case about, and it's been a nightmare. And you're in Los Angeles. So, you know, I mean, being that the 3rd house is things that you inhale or smoke, and that those planets are going to square Saturn and Neptune in your 6th house, I wouldn't want to be drinking and driving. I wouldn't want to be doing drugs and getting drug tested. I wouldn't want to be, I mean, substances and like authority figures are a theme over the next month. And it's also going to be about how you're finding new ways of dealing with stress and anxiety that's not going to require you to like inhale something, or, you know, chew something, or put something like, you know, in your mouth. So it may be a good idea. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but it may be a good idea to consider that. Also having your Aries sun, I mean, I don't know what degree it's in, but like Aries is the sinuses in the head and the face. So having like Chiron in Aries, and having, you know, Mars that's been opposing Chiron, and like there's a Venus square Chiron that's coming up. I'm a Libra rising Aries moon. I've had terrible sinus migraines and headaches off and on under all of these kind of like squares and eclipses. So it's definitely brought on by stress. The Devil card is saying that you have to take into consideration also like that there is a situation that you're going to come out of it, that they're still going to feel like they have some kind of control over you. But if you go into it going, I did what you asked, my tests are clean, you know, I'm able to kind of show up and be there on time, I'm able to kind of speak my piece and also physically show you that I am showing up in a mature way, it does look like there is going to be some change. Specifically, it looks like there's probably going to be some new visitation orders. That looks like it's going into place sometime from about December all the way through about March of next year. So I think there's going to be like a trial run, or there's going to be a short period where they're trying it, seeing what's going on before they make much more permanent changes. So do your best not to let this get the best of you, but know that you're going to see some pretty dramatic changes that are going to be happening. And like, I'm glad that you're going and having this done in December and not in November, because the timing is going to be a lot better for your chart, especially if you want to get some of the health stuff in order. Like, trust me when I tell you, when these planets go through your 3rd house and they start squaring Saturn and Neptune, you don't want to be having that in your system and getting tested, because it will come down. You also want to be in a situation where your mind is right in the way that you're communicating, and you're feeling like very grounded going into this. So any mindfulness exercises or anything that you can be doing now, walking, biking, journaling, whatever, I would say do it, because it's about getting solid so you can go into that, you know, courtroom and feel like you're confident and you can kind of keep your head held high, right? So hopefully that's helpful for you. Definitely come back, let me know. Get your brown candle from the Botanica. That'll be helpful, and I'm rooting for you. I know that's something that you've been going through for a very long time.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with me on Friday. I appreciate it. I will be back here next week. Next Friday is actually Halloween, so I'm not going to be here live on Friday. We're going to move the live to Thursday, so we'll be doing live astrology on Thursday. Make sure you guys give me a thumbs up and like this stream. Subscribe to the channel. If you guys want to get your hands on a copy of the Sword and the Rose Tarot, like I said, it should be out at the beginning of November. Once I get the proofs and stuff back from the printer, and we get it on the website. I'm trying to get it out before like the 9th or the 10th of November. So you'll be the first to know when it goes live. You can get one of those limited edition decks. For more information on that and me, check out the links at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you guys this Sunday, and we're going to talk about Mercury entering into Sagittarius. So I will see you at my Sunday sermon. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and you guys take care.